So for week 1 of our Roots class, we will be discussing Scripture. What exactly do Episcopalians and Anglicans, the larger communion we're a part of, do with Scripture? So to start that conversation, I thought I would tell you another story. In the mid-2nd century, there was this guy who was the son of a bishop. He was a shipbuilder. He was fairly wealthy and successful. His name was Marcion. And in his time, Christians used a wide diversity of literature. They had not yet agreed to a single set of texts called the Bible. Different churches used slightly different collections of letters, gospels, stories, things like that. Marcion steps into this and says, there's too much diversity, too many contradictions. We need to whittle this down. We need to have one thing, and that's the Christian Scripture. He says we need one gospel, and I think we should go with Luke. We should have this small collection of Paul's letters, and honestly, that's it. That's all Christians need. Gospel of Luke, some of Paul's letters. And then Marcion goes in and says we don't even need all of the Gospel of Luke and all of these letters. I'm going to do some edits on here. I'm going to try to remove anything that looks too much like the Jewish roots of Christianity, because Marcion is deeply anti-Semitic. He wants to rid Christianity of its Jewish origins. The rest of the church catches wind of what Marcion's up to, and they say, knock that off, you're a heretic. They say, this is not the way that Christians are going to do this. We are not trying to run away from our Jewish roots. We own this. But they realize Marcion has raised a very important question. What is the defining set of texts that Christians use? And they realize if they don't have some answer to this question, people like Marcion are going to keep doing their kind of projects, which are very problematic, as Marcion has proved. So this starts the church into the long, lengthy conversation of creating the canon of Scripture. And the first project, because of Marcion, is reaffirming that Christians use Jewish Scripture. We're not running from that. We're not trying to cut it out and throw it away. This is the first of many conversations that eventually lead to Christians choosing the books that are in the Bible. Second part of this story. A few years after Marcion's death, there is a guy called Tatian of Syria. He's in the Eastern Church, and he writes a thing called the Diatessaron. This is where he takes the 4 Gospels that are most widely used by Christians, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and he says, still, too much diversity. I think I can make a single story out of these. And so he edits them into a single narrative of the life of Jesus. And some churches in the East use the Diatessaron for a while. But eventually, after more conversation, the church says, you know what? I think we're actually better off with the 4 stories. Even if they don't perfectly mesh up, I think we get a better sense of who Jesus was by keeping the complexity, keeping the diversity, and not trying to make it all fit together into one story. That also becomes a pivotal moment in Christians figuring out what the Bible is and what it's for. And of all the branches of the Christian family tree, Anglicans may be the ones who have owned that particular part of our history with the most intensity. Anglicans love the fact that the Bible has more than one voice locked in conversation and debate, inviting us to come in and experience something complicated rather than the single narrative that Marcion or Tatian were trying to give us. So that's the story. I hope you will join us for class this week. We'll have a lot more to say about Scripture, what it is, and how we use it. I hope to see you there.